Greetings world, we are anonymous. The year is 2020, and, unless you've been living under a rock, the mass awareness of a nefarious plot has been rising as the globe awakens while watching each chain of events bombarding the news broadcasts this year. Our Legion has been warning you all about this coming decade for many years prior. If you are feeling confused, then you need to be aware that, between 2020 and 2030 a great cataclysm is set to happen. This disaster will be staged to look like an unstoppable tragedy by nature, but in reality it has been an evil plot mapped out by the ruling class since the first Bilderberg meetings were conducted in 1954. This cataclysm will disrupt everything and depopulate the number of living humans on the planet. You need to be ready to bravely face this and survive. It comes with great sadness that we have reached this point where our past warnings were not taken seriously, and the fate of humanity now hangs in the balance. But have no fear, we are not entirely too late to stop this. We still have a few more years to get ready. We will be issuing out 3 final warnings. The first was released on the 23rd of June last month. The second will be released on a surprise date. We have to operate in secrecy because this is a mind game they are playing with us. We can't let them know we know their next move, or else they will change the date and plan to make us look foolish. The key is inaccurately predicting their moves as they place them down permanently to expose their premeditation. It will not be coincidental that in the height of World War III with China, the US will be struck with a disaster unlike any it has ever experienced before. By us telling you this now, you know that later when it happens it will not just be by chance that it matches exactly what we foretold. The coronavirus is not the final strike of lightning, but is rather the first raindrop hitting our skin of the approaching storm. Take it as a red flag, a sign that they are preparing for a very large lie and catastrophe to be sold to the world. Following the victorious announcement of defeating the virus, expect the final years leading up to the disaster to be very prosperous. They want you to be happy and blindsided, thinking that the worst is finally over, filling you with a false sense of relief so that you let your guard down just before they finally drop the ball. Here is what we have put together as a guide to increase your chances of success and survival. With today's economy, it's beneath the luck if you have the means to live off-grid. However, small off-grid living can be attainable, even to those who want middle class or higher, but it will require major life changes. Yes, living off the grid is a great challenge and requires the same level of maintenance that farmers require to keep up with their yields. But in a survival scenario you have no choice, you will need to eat and continue living, and you will no longer be working for an employer anymore anyways, so your available time is now open to spend it serving your community or family. Once you come to understand this is how life always had been before modern luxuries existed, you will find very little to complain about when you also see that you don't have to give up modern luxuries to return back to self-sustainability. We are living in a unique moment in history where technologies of the past and present can be combined together. An off-grid home doesn't mean you have to give up modern luxuries. It just means you can finally give up supporting this corrupted system of control over all of us. So let's now talk about the steps you will need to take to get set up. You can pause to take notes if necessary.
Here is a beginner's guide to living off-grid. Property. There have been talks of housing bubbles forming again, both in the US and abroad. This has been further aggravated in the US by the Crapo Bill. The Crapo Bill was introduced by Senator Mike Crapo of Idaho. The bill rolled back some of the Dodd-Frank regulations that were imposed after the financial crisis to help prevent another recession. All bubbles aside, however, you can actually find affordable land to buy in the US without placing yourself in crippling debt. You just might find yourself living in a state like Ohio or Connecticut, the latter of which is reported to be one of the states with the highest taxes. Keep state taxes in mind, and look into the job market in any regions that interest you. An internet search on property markets in the US can give you a good idea of regions to start. From there, comparing prices from real estate websites in different regions can help you narrow the search down. You can buy an acre of land for as little as $1,000, and even less if you know where to look. We suggest keeping usable water sources in mind, and avoiding regions close to nuclear power plants and fossil fuel operations. Some states have been taking action to prevent citizens from living off-grid, and you'll obviously want to avoid those states. Provided in the links below is a list of states with laws that affect off-grid living. Likewise, our 420-friendly viewers will want to look further into states where medicinal and/or recreational marijuana has been legalized. Finding affordable property in the locations that's right for you will take some elbow grease, but for those who are intent on living off-grid, it's worth it. Housing. You can always rely on America's surplus of crappy old trailers and RVs, many of which people will pay you to take off their hands. However, if you prefer a higher standard of living, you can also look into mini houses. Prices for mini houses can range from a few $1,000s to the extravagant, and can be either mobile or placed on a foundation. Be sure to check state and local laws, as well as permit requirements beforehand. If done correctly, shipping containers can also serve as an inexpensive alternative to mini houses, and they offer room for creativity. You can buy used shipping containers for around $1,000 to $5,000, and renovations to make them livable can roughly cost as little as $7,000 to $10,000 per shipping container. Many people use multiple containers for one home. Remember to use recycled and reclaimed materials as much as possible to cut costs further.
When you choose to live free of the system, by acquiring off-grid sustainability, you will be eliminating your reliance on government-provided services. Resources, such as fresh drinking water, food, and energy, are things they hold captive from you and keep you away from your ability to secede from their control. But, if you already prepare and install your own independence from their control, then you will never need their help to survive, just as our ancestors once did themselves, only this time with the help of modern technology. There are websites which provide the service to allow you to custom make the floor plan of an affordable subterranean bunker. And they not only will ship it right to your desired location, but also install it in the ground for you. See the links below for this reference. A stable off-grid fortress is necessary to provide shelter and independent living space to maintain a strong family unit to continue to outnumber and overthrow the 1% ruling class in the future.
Energy systems. There are various forms of power systems that can be used in an off-grid home, such as hydropower systems, or even a combination. In this report, we will focus on solar and wind power systems. However, in the end, it really depends on what works best for your property. Keep in mind it takes around 10,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity per year to power the typical American home. Before going solar, you need to learn which type of solar panels you need or prefer. A link has been provided below to help get you started. Solar panels can be placed on your roof, or mounted separately. Costs can vary greatly depending on the size of your home, and whether or not you put the system together yourself, which can cost around $1,200 plus, or have it done by a professional, which can be around $10,000, give or take. Like all forms of home energy systems, they come with maintenance. A decent wind turbine for your home can cost as much as $1,000 to $5,000, though you can find them cheaper, depending on your needs. There are 3 types of towers used for residential wind power that use either permanent magnet generators, or PMGs, wound field alternators, and conventional induction motors, all of which can come at varying expenses.
We've been deprived and suppressed by the oil and petroleum industries to only rely on them for all our energy needs. Free renewable energy exists and is constantly improving. By combining a number of methods together, you can achieve your own power factories right at home, and have plenty of power to run all your essential utilities. It is inevitable that in this decade somebody will eventually advance upon these technologies we already have, as more human minds are left to wander and try new ideas. Wind, solar and hydropower are only the beginning of these ideas. We now also have thermal solar panels which operate without sunlight, as well as power generators if you have a large backup of gasoline to use for its fuel. Below we'll link sources which are innovating and transforming energy production. It's only a matter of time before hydrogen generators will exist and just pure rainwater would be usable as a fuel source to create energy. One day we will ask ourselves why we went so long only using fossil fuels when we could have been using all these free resources to power our lives.
Water systems. As mentioned before, finding property with a natural, clean water source like a river, well or pond, is your best bet. If you're interested in pulling water from a river or stream, the laws vary between states. You'll need to look up riparian rights for the state you are interested in. With almost any system you use, you'll need the solar powered submersible deep well pump. The pumps themselves are, on average, around $100 to $300, but can be more. You'll have to pay attention to the product details, but most of these well pumps require 12-volt or 24-volt solar panels, which will run an additional $100 plus. You may be able to find kits that will save you money, or used systems through trader sites and Craigslist. If natural water sources aren't an option for your property, there are other solutions. Depending on the region of the US you choose, cisterns and rainwater harvest systems can be used, the latter of which can easily be in the $1,000 to $5,000 range. For this reason, a do-it-yourself approach might be more feasible. Potable water tanks are necessary for most systems, and probably a good idea if you want to keep extra supplies. The tanks come in a large range of sizes, with a new 500-gallon tank costing roughly $300 to $500. As a final resort, you can always purchase water to be brought to your property by bulk water delivery service. No matter your usable water source, you'll need a filtration system. They're easy enough to find online for $100 plus, and you have quite a few options here, but keep quality in mind.
It may appear to be a challenge to set all this up and maintain. Honestly, you do not have another choice but to do this. Your other options are drinking from wild springs and eating insects while sleeping in tents, or being prisoners of war under the Federal Emergency Management Agency. All the highways and cities will be unlivable and filled with cannibalistic bandits who refuse to cooperate with other humans and give nature a try. If you want to win this revolution, you have to survive it in large number. This is why we're imploring you to begin setting up your off-grid fortress immediately. The most simple and easiest way to collect water is to rig rain barrels to your gutters, then sterilize and filtrate it later. We will provide links on how to build a well and other water collection methods. Please understand, we are giving you this guide to save your life. It is your own choice if you want to ignore this warning and take the risk of being caught unprepared.
Plumbing. You can always use a typical outhouse, but that will become troublesome sooner or later. If you plan to farm your land or keep any livestock, such as pigs, it could theoretically work for you. You can dispose of your waste in the compost along with the rest of your livestock's waste, but it's still a messy business, and it would require the appropriate upkeep to ensure a hygienic environment.
On the farm, Ruth is attempting her own project. Breathing new life into the all-important privy. A facility that in rural areas had changed little.
Although in the Edwardian age, an awful lot of people were moving on, from this sort of privy. Water closets getting really quite common actually in towns. I mean, even really quite modest houses are having water closets installed. But out in the countryside, most Edwardians were still working on privy systems, rather like this.
Rural privies were often found in the same building as the pigsties, so the farm's animal and human waste could be composted together, a system that was no longer viable in the increasingly populated towns and cities.
Towns have to move over to new forms of sanitation as their populations rise. Push people in closer and closer together, you're going to get more and more disease. You've got to find a new way of dealing with it. Out here, where you've got plenty of fresh air to deal with all the fumes and stuff coming off, plenty of space for composting, you can manage a hygienic system without needing the new technology.
To sterilise the privy seat, Ruth uses caustic soda.
And this will kill every last remaining little trace of bug. In In the late Victorian and Edwardian period, people are first really getting to grips with what germs are, what bacteria is. The microscopes are revealing all, and as a result, it sort of provoked a, well, almost a paranoia really about germs and bacteria and dirt. So that you find really very, very, very rigorous cleaning regimes.
For the privy walls, Ruth uses a solution made from limestone.
Whitewash, being based on lime, is caustic and alkaline, and it kills bugs. It's a sterilising solution, as well as making an area lighter and brighter. So, helps with being able to see in the dim light. I am making toilet paper. So this is a really old tradition. People have been doing it for centuries. In fact, there's even a Shakespearean line talking about some other sort of literature as being fit only for bum fodder.
Now all the privy needs is some animal dung to compost with the human waste.
These are two.
Yep, these are our two large blacks. There you go.
Farmhand Megan Elliott has brought 2 sows for the pigsty.
So large black, that's local.
Yeah, in the late 1800s, the large blacks, you know, were the breed of that time. Big,
Nice fat pig.
but yeah, they've got these big loppy ears that go over their eyes, and because they can't see so well, that makes them quite placid. They are nice.
Nice, easy pigs. Good girls. Good
Come on, then.
girls. Good girls. Just a bit more now. Come on. That's it.
Your best bet is to create a good sewage system, and if you've figured out your water system, this shouldn't be too difficult, aside from the labor involved. A basic septic system consists of a tank that collects and releases wastewater. Bacteria within the tank naturally breaks the waste down, and as new wastewater flows in, old wastewater flows out through a series of perforated pipes where it is filtered through the soil and absorbed as nutrients. New septic tanks range in price depending on the size. A 200-gallon tank costs approximately $300, while a 2,000-gallon tank will cost around $2,000. You should have the tank emptied and serviced annually. No matter what type of plumbing system you use, you will need to contact the county in which your property is located to find out what your options are. Some properties come with septic tank restrictions, and you will want to avoid those properties. Provided below is a useful source for off-grid water and plumbing. There are various other things to take into consideration when switching to an off-grid lifestyle. This includes gardening, irrigation systems, canning, and composting. Not to mention internet access, all of which we will be covering in a future video. There are also other alternatives to the suggestions provided in this report, and inexpensive do-it-yourself approaches can be taken in almost all cases. This report is meant to serve as a rough guideline, and to stir the serious viewer's imagination.
To read this report in full, and for links to sources, please visit the video's description to look through all available options. We hope you decide to join us to fight back against these evil liars who tried to get away with this diabolical plot. Good luck, and as always, love one another, and take care of yourself. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Good luck.